So hello, everyone. This is Otessa, and you are listening to Conversations with Hysterical Women. That's Women with an X, the Hysterical Women podcast, where you are all welcome here, friends, allies, everywhere across the rainbow, across the binary. I'm just really glad to have you be here. And this is meant to be a safe space to explore all of the weird things that life throws at us and all of the different ways in which we can be twisted and torn asunder, but also all the different ways that we can come back together. So thank you for listening, and I'm glad that you're here. And going to be cheesy, but comment, like, subscribe.
Some people have a very clear idea of exactly what they want to do, you know?
That must be nice.
Yeah, exactly. And I commend you. Yeah. You know, people are using podcasts, they're realtors or they're selling something, and they're using it as a way to give you some information, but to basically hook you into either their course that they're offering or their home that they're selling. And that's a great niche. That's one way you can make podcasting work. Other people are doing it around relationships, but I would say to go into this with an open mind. If you just want to learn how to podcast and become a great host and a great interviewer, or you want to share your comedy. And like you said, just experiment and give yourself that time to figure out, what is it that I really want to do?
So that would definitely help for both making this into something that is a revenue stream, but also is good for your mental health. Any other sort of suggestions that you would have, so that, because I think that people can think that it's a lot easier than it is. And it's not easy.
Yes. It's creating a podcast is much harder work. Well, you know, I always say this statistic, two things that I learned from podcast conventions, and I distribute my podcast through Libsyn, and what Libsyn taught me, because I've listened to some of their talks, is on average, you shouldn't look at your downloads for 2 to 3 years, which the minute they say that, you know, the entire audience is like, boo.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, well, I want 10,000 downloads an episode. Most podcast episodes get 100 downloads per episode. So, you know, I would go into it and you've got to kind of remove all those expectations, and also really kind of wrap your mind around that it is going to be more work. Booking guests is a full-time job. Thinking about, do you want to co-host? Co-hosts are wonderful. But also they can be very difficult. I mean, I co-hosted with people for years, and then finally got to the point, one, from a financial decision, because I was like, all right, I actually want to garner some money from this podcast because I'm making money, but a lot of the times I'm paying a podcast, I'm paying an editor. So that was one of the decisions I decided to go out on my own. Some people love podcast hosts, but I think that's another place where niches need to be explored, because maybe you want many different hosts. You want somebody different with you every time. Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't. Maybe you value, hey, you guys don't care if you make any money. Let's just have a great time. So I think, thinking about, and also giving yourself some grace, because it's definitely a harder thing than you think. Editing, booking the guests, and then if you do want to take on monetizing it, you know, there's a couple ways, and I know you and I are going to get into that. If you join a network, they'll monetize it for you. You're going to make far less money. If you decide to monetize on yourself or a hybrid version, you're going to make more money, but it's definitely going to be more work.
Right. So if it's all right with you, can we talk a little bit more about the how to monetize portion?
Yes. This is my favorite part, because I am in so many podcast groups, and I see so many frustrated podcasters who love it and they're about ready to give up because they realize how much time it takes and they aren't sure how they can monetize it. Anyone who has a podcast now, and I'm not talking, you do not have to have thousands of downloads. I started monetizing my podcast with 1,000 downloads an episode, which I know seems like a lot when the average is 100. But the reality is, if you're getting 100, you can get 800, you can get 900. You are not that far away. So I started with just 1,000 downloads an episode and monetizing it. How I did that, and I tell people, the first thing you need to do is you need to get a Canva account, and you need to create a brand packet. And the brand packet needs to be 1 or 2 pages. No one's going to scroll beyond that. And it needs to be, and even if you have 2,000 followers on social media, where do you really distribute and focus your time when it comes to social media?
Yep.
Maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's Clubhouse now, whatever it is, 3 or 4 places where you are beginning to get an audience or you already have one, what the show is about. You need to do a quick survey from your friends to start. And lots of times, like Libsyn, for example, they'll run a survey for you. So what that essentially means is they'll give you a link. So at the end or the start of every podcast episode, you can say, hey, I know 100 of you guys listen. Could you go and fill out this survey and tell me your age, other podcasts you listen to, your income, your education level? So you need to give those stats to a brand because everybody's going to want to know who's listening because they're all looking for a target. So put together a 2-pager on Canva. They even have, I think, like a brand packet layout.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Boom, there you go. Some pictures of you, your co-host, what the show is about. That's the first thing you need to do. The second thing is once you know who that audience is, let's say you're talking sports and it's men ages 25 to 35. Okay, a quick Google search will tell you what the men 25 to 35 are interested in, what they drink, what they eat, what they buy, clothing stores. So begin to reach out to those brands. Brands now more than ever are interested in micro influencers. One, because of cost. It's going to be more affordable to advertise with someone like me than it is someone like Kylie Jenner. It's and 2, they're finding that my audience, much like even if you have a smaller podcast with 400, 500 downloads, your audience is very engaged. They're looking for you every single week. So if they can convert 10, 15% of your audience at a low cost into customers of theirs, it's worth it. So definitely research what your audience is into, get the brand packet. And then lastly, it is the Wild West of also charging for ad spots, posts on Instagram and social media. A quick Google search will tell you, I think if you have 10,000 followers on Instagram, you can charge $150 a post or something like that. I always incentivize clients. The more they buy, the bigger the discount they get.
Yeah.
So play around with it. And at first you just want some advertisers to take a risk on you. So, work with them in their budget. Start with, even if you could make $350 from a client to begin with, that's like your time and your co-host time for 1 week.
Yeah.
So and I would start local. If you have a show that is at all local, there is so much opportunity because local businesses are being priced out of local television in the DC region. To advertise on TV, thousands and thousands of dollars for a television commercial, thousands and thousands of dollars for a radio campaign. And those, they're having trouble because how can they really measure ROI?
Yeah.
Well, with podcasters, you get a code. If their website, some small businesses aren't always set up for it, but they usually, you can say specifically to your audience, tell them that the such and such podcast sent you. So there's many more ways for someone small like myself to track ROI for clients. And then that's what they want to come back. And it's a much more reasonable price point.
Absolutely. That's very, very helpful.